Enright greeted by Vicky and Ted. 4:12, Fontaine talks to Enright. 4:20, McMillan's arrive. 4:23, Dr. Thursby introduced. 4:26, Monica asks Enright to enter locked room. 4:28, Monica and Enright enter room. 4:36, shot is heard. 4:37, McMillan enters room. Monica shot. Enright, gun in hand. 4:38, Dr. Thursby examines Monica, calls for ambulance. 4:57, Monica, Dr. Thursby enter ambulance. 5:26, Monica operated on, pronounced dead at hospital by Dr. Wilson. And it just doesn't get us anywhere.
Well, we'll just have to keep going over it and over it and over it.
We've been going over and over and over it, and no matter where we start, it always ends up the same. I'm the only person who could have killed her. I'm having a hard time convincing myself that I didn't.
You know, Sergeant, what we haven't done is give enough thought to the other witnesses.
What other witnesses? Monica and I were alone.
Yeah, you were alone. She was shot, yes, but not afterwards.
I don't see what you're getting at, sir.
Neither do I. Except look at Dr. Thursby. He enters our sequence of events here, when you bumped into him as you were leaving. Continues on through the sequence, only until here at the hospital.
How does that help us?
It's our second inconsistency. Thursby's a doctor, right? He examined Monica at the scene of the shooting, was with her in the ambulance, but not in the hospital. Now, it's standard procedure that a doctor who assumes a patient in stress never leaves the patient. He never even waited until she was operated on. He just disappeared.
That's right, sir.
What do you know about him?
I met him at the reception. That's it.
Then I think we should find somebody who knows this Dr. Thursby.
Sergeant Enright. Commissioner. Oh, come on in.
We're sorry to disturb you on your honeymoon.
Oh, that's all right. You're not disturbing us.
Of course not. Hello, Uncle Charlie. Commissioner, can we get you some coffee? Here, let me pour you some.
No, thank you. Your breakfast just arrived, so go ahead and enjoy it.
Oh, dear, I'm afraid the coffee's cold. Ted, will you order some?
No, thanks. We just had a big lunch.
Oh. Well, we're just about to order lunch ourselves. Somehow we never got around to breakfast. Well, you know how slow room service is. You're hungry when you order it, but by the time it gets here, you're on to something else.
We'd like to ask you a couple of questions about Dr. Thursby.
Dr. Thursby?
Monica's friend. We hadn't met him ourselves until the reception.
Do you know if he was the only doctor at the wedding?
Yes, he was. That's funny. Monica asked the same question.
I want an APB on Dr. Felix Thursby, probably of Los Angeles.
You know, sir, for the first time, I think we're on to something.
Good.
But what?
Well, Charlie, I sure thought you'd be in jail by now.
I'm out on bail, Mr. Fontaine. And I didn't kill her.
Oh, sure you didn't. Oh, say, would you get me that magazine with the pretty blonde on the cover?
I'm glad to see you're taking your daughter's death so well, Mr. Fontaine.
Oh? Well, my daughter died the day she married your friend here. Thank you.
What do you know about the man she was with at the reception, this Dr. Thursby?
Well, I know he's not a cop, and that's enough for me.
Are you sure he's a doctor? He left her at the hospital, never even bothered to check on her again.
Did he really? Well, that doesn't surprise me. Poor Monica, she never has had much luck with the men in her life. As for his being a doctor, I was talking with him at the reception about my son's radius. Alex broke his radius skiing, and it never healed right. Thursby thought I was talking about a leg bone. How's that for a dummy, huh?
Do you know where he lives?
Well, he was staying at the Lamplighters. I doubt he'd be there alone now. Monica was picking up the tab.
Movie star scrapbook. Interesting hobby for a man your age.
Yeah, isn't it? You know, actually, I picked this up from my wife. She and Monica used to paste these things in by the hour, with her telling Monica all the time someday it'd be her. Well, who knows? Maybe one of the newspapers will print a nice little obit picture. If they do, I'll paste it in somewhere near the bank. Why not?
Well, don't you see?
I haven't looked.
What? Oh, you're right. Take a look. Gunpowder grains all around the hole in the dress. They couldn't have been made by a gun 20 feet away. That does it.
Does what?
Breaks the case. If Enright were across the room, he couldn't have killed her.
Sykes.
It's as simple as that.
Sykes, the prosecution will tell the jury she was shot at close range and fell back due to the impact.
Sorry, Sergeant. I tried.
But I was 20 feet away.
I believe you.
Commissioner, they told me you were here. Lowen, right?
What is it?
Well, go ahead, Chapman. How much worse can it get?
You've been saying there's no motive. I believe I found one.
Motive? For me to kill her? What motive?
Sergeant, did you take out an insurance policy on your wife when you were first married?
Yes, I did.
Do you continue to make yearly payments?
Yes, I do.
Are you the beneficiary to the tune of $50,000?
I am.
A policy a man has made payments on for 15 years after being divorced. On the life of a woman who hated him. Would you call that motive, Commissioner?
That is a retirement policy for when she reaches 60. I kept up the payments because I felt that I owed it to her. So that she'd have something when she reached old age. I'd forgotten it had a death benefit. I really had.
You were the surgical nurse during the operation when Miss Fontaine died.
Yes.
Is this the bullet that was removed from the deceased?
It is, yes.
How can you be certain?
Well, I marked and tagged it right here.
Thank you, Miss Summers. No more questions?
No questions, Your Honor.
I call Police Commissioner Stuart McMillan.
Raise your right hand. State your name, please.
Stuart McMillan.
Do you swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the
I do.
truth, so help you God?
As you're aware, Commissioner, we have substantiated that the deceased was killed by this bullet. The attending doctor verified this was the bullet removed from the deceased's body. The attending surgical nurse just corroborated that testimony. Would you please tell us if you recognize this gun?
I can.
Whose is it?
Sergeant Charles Enright.
And where were you at the time of the shooting?
In the next room.
What did you hear from the murder room? Would you please tell us that?
The shot.
No. Before the shot. Isn't it true that you heard Sergeant Enright and the deceased arguing?
Objection. The district attorney is leading the witness.
Your Honor, I withdraw the question. I certainly wouldn't want to lead the commissioner into anything. Commissioner, would you please tell us in your own words what you heard before the shot?
A voice.
Coming from the murder room.
Yes.
Whose voice?
The deceased.
How would you describe that voice? Happy, angry, frightened?
He's asking for conclusion, Your Honor.
Sustained.
Your Honor, I can substantiate any conclusion the commissioner might have with a dozen other witnesses. I'll move on to the next question. Would you tell us what did you hear coming from the room before the shot?
I heard the deceased scream.
Scream what? Or were there words?
Yes.
Would you please repeat them to the court?
Oh, God, no. Don't. Please don't kill me.
Would you please repeat them again a little louder?
Oh, God, no. Please don't. Don't kill me.
She screamed them.
Yes.
Pleading for her life.
Objection!
Sustained.
Now, Commissioner, would you tell us what you saw and what you did after the shot?
I broke through the locked door. Sergeant Enright was standing with a pistol in his hand. The deceased was lying on the floor some 20 feet away. I took the gun from the sergeant, smelled it. It had recently been fired. And there was an empty cartridge in the chamber.
And this gun? The gun that ballistics has already proven fired the bullet. Is this the gun you took from Sergeant Enright?
Yes. It has my initials on the tag.
Was Sergeant Enright alone in the room with the deceased?
Yes.
And what did your subsequent investigation prove? Could anyone else have entered that room and fired the shot? Or could that shot have been fired from outside the room?
No. Neither could have been possible.
People rest, Your Honor.
The witness may step down. Does the defense wish to present any witnesses at this hearing?
No, Your Honor. Not at this time.
Then I order Charles Enright remanded to court for trial on the 12th day of March, 1973.
Your Honor, what about bail?
The evidence being as strong as it is, I shall have to reconsider whether bail will continue. We will speak in chambers later.
It's not fair. It's just not fair that Sergeant Enright should be in jail. What did the judge think? That he was going to run away?
Well, you can't say the good sergeant didn't know what the consequences would be when he shot her. Oh, I'm not condemning him. She probably had it coming. I just wish he'd done a better job of planning it, that's all.
Don't stand on ceremony, Mildred. Pour yourself a drink.
Well, maybe just a quick one. Take my mind off the spinach souffle. I always get so nervous waiting for it to rise.
Maybe I should go out and watch it. At least it would take my mind off of Sergeant Enright.
Well, at least with the souffle, there's some suspense involved. I mean, we all know Sergeant Enright did it, poor man.
Mildred, how can you say a thing like that?
Well, you caught him red-handed at it, didn't you? When Inspector Gerard had to investigate a locked room murder, there was nobody in the room, just the body. I mean, Sergeant Enright let you catch him at it.
Who was Inspector Gerard?
Oh, you know those ghastly murder mysteries that Mildred's always reading.
There is nothing ghastly about Inspector Gerard. Surely I've mentioned him to you, Commissioner. Lives alone with his faithful housekeeper. And, maybe there's something going on between the two of them, but we're never quite sure,
Oh, of course I remember, Mildred. I can't imagine it slipping my mind.
Mildred, how can you read those things? Don't they give you nightmares?
No, the newspapers do. I mean, no offense to the commissioner, but, all those unsolved crimes.
Tell me, Mildred, in any of those books you read, does the faithful housekeeper ever get murdered?
Well, as a matter of fact, in The Rooster Cried Wolf, the upstairs maid was witness to a murder, and the chauffeur had to kill her to seal her lips forever.
I know the feeling.
Well, you see, in that one...
Mildred, you know, I'm getting a little nervous about that spinach souffle. Maybe you better go out and give it a check.
Okay. Maybe after dinner. Over a brandy. I'll tell you how Inspector Gerard solved his locked room murder.
I wonder if the good inspector ever resorts to locking his faithful housekeeper in the basement.
I don't know. A locked room murder. That's when no one's in the room but the victim and the door's locked, right?
Right, except in our case it's a victim and someone who didn't do it, Charles Enright. If we could just get the sequence in a different order, we might be onto something.
You mean if what we saw and heard wasn't really what we saw and heard in the order that we saw and heard them?
You have a wonderful way of clarifying things, yeah.
Well, first we heard Monica arguing. Then we heard a shot. No, then we heard a scream, and then we heard a shot.
Then I broke into the room and Charles Enright was standing with a gun in his hand.
Then you told me to call for a doctor, and I called for Dr. Thursby. He examined her, and he called for an ambulance.
The ambulance took her to a hospital where she died later on of a bullet wound.
This never gets us anywhere. It's a dead end every time. Poor Sergeant Enright.
Well, we know one thing. Monica's dead, and that means somebody wanted her dead.
Commissioner, I'm convinced that the hole in this dress was not made by a bullet, but by something that left gunpowder grains like a bullet. If you'll notice, a bullet fired into the fabric will leave a hole, something of this nature, or perhaps this nature, or possibly this nature. I fired bullets from 12 different guns into the fabric, and not one bullet has left a hole that was jagged.
Very good. What do you think did make the hole?
Not a bullet.
What?
Well, whatever is not a bullet.
Well, what?
Hello, Mac.
Captain.
Hi, Sarge.
Captain?
Here are all the facts that we've been able to gather on the case so far. Maybe something in it may help.
Thanks.
But if ever I'm handed an ironclad case, I'm afraid this is the one.
You should stop sounding quite so sure of yourself. Stand a better chance if we could locate this Dr. Thursby.
I just added 6 extra investigators to the case. By the way, I recommended that Enright be released on bail pending trial. Maybe you can help.
Got the feeling I'm gonna owe you a drink.
You know, this is gonna be the first time I've ever won a case from you. I wouldn't even feel like celebrating.
Don't worry. I'll think of something to keep you from marring your record.
Since we got nothing from the florist, the photographer, and the caterer, what do you hope to find here?
Anything. We'll settle for anything today.
Oh, yes, I handled the Fontaine wedding, and I am delighted that you were impressed enough to inquire, but then, of course, that's how I get most of my business.
Sorry, Mr. Davidson, but we're not here as customers.
Oh?
We're police.
Oh.
I'd like to talk to you about the Fontaine wedding.
Well, as a matter of fact, this is going to work out very well, gentlemen, because I have been wanting to talk to someone about that little affair myself. Would you honor me by coming this way, please? You see, the damage was unbelievable right through here, gentlemen. I haven't finished taking my inventory yet, but, well, as you can see, there were broken dishes and, well, there's your torn linen. And the insurance man was just here, and I showed him this, and he just couldn't believe it. Oh, they're going to pay all right, but they'll cancel my policy. You know that, don't you? Oh, and look. Gentlemen, this happens to be a first.
First what?
Well, a first for destroying pillows. A first place. Some fool must have been smoking cigars 2 at a time. I mean, just look at that hole right there.
It's on both sides.
Oh, sure. It's burned all the way through. And this is a feather pillow, the very best of down.
What's the damage?
Oh, on the Fontaine wedding, I'd say about several $100s. In fact, it's the last time I'm going to cater to the Irish. You're not Irish, are you?
I'm talking about the pillow.
Oh, the pillow is irreparable. I mean, it's a total loss.
I said how much?
How much? You want to buy it? Well, all right, $20. How about 20? I mean, as you can see, most of the down is still in it. Thank you, sir, very much. I couldn't interest you in a tablecloth, could I? I mean, best I can see, this would spend a couple of hours in the powder room, but if your hang-up is damaged goods, you might just love it. Oh, they're very strange people.
Gunpowder burns.
Let's hope so. Or I'm out $20 for a $2 pillow. You know, Sergeant, I've got one of those very funny feelings.
Well, why don't you go your way? I'll go
Right.
mine. Are you looking for me, Alex? Or are you on your way to target practice?
Think I'm looking for a chance to shoot Charlie, Commissioner? I've already had it. All I had to do was pull the trigger, and it would have been bye-bye Charlie.
But you didn't pull it.
He's still alive, isn't he?
Look, suppose I keep you informed, step by step, as this case progresses. In return, no vendetta against Charles Enright.
Sure. I give justice a chance, why not? But if I have to, I'll also give it a helping hand.
You were absolutely correct, sir. A bullet was fired into this pillow.
Which explains how they could have gotten the bullet out of Enright's gun.
Right, Commissioner. The gunpowder burns on the pillow you brought in match almost perfectly with the second pillow. Approximately the same residue on each.
Good work, Sykes.
Thank you, sir. I went to the rental place myself, you know, for the second pillow. I wanted to buy it, of course, but the guy there said, no, we don't sell them, we only rent them. I said, well, that's okay, but you're not going to be too happy with it when I bring it back. And he said, well, if they're not happy with it when you bring it back, you're going to have to pay for it. I said, that's what I'm trying to do right now. And he said, nope, we only rent them. Got a receipt here somewhere for it. I don't know, if I don't find that receipt, I'm not going to get my deposit back from that guy. Unless you'll vouch for me.
Mac, I'm afraid I still have a pretty strong case.
Not at all. The bullet in the pillow proves somebody wanted to frame Enright. I thought they were going to fix it.
If that bullet had been put in another gun and fired, it would have changed the ballistics markings. Now, how could they avoid being changed?
Well, now there's progress for you. You're asking questions now instead of providing all the answers.
It's because I've got an awful lot of questions.
And I'm convinced the answers are somewhere in Monica's past.
You may be right, but most of her past is in Hollywood.
Commissioner, I have your reservations. Your flight to Los Angeles leaves at 4:02.
Thank you.
Do you know what just finally dawned on me? If somebody wanted to kill Monica, then why did they wait until she was in a room with Sergeant Enright, a police officer?
You mean someone wanted to implicate him?
Well, that would mean that the motive wasn't just to kill Monica, but to try and destroy Sergeant Enright.
I got a puzzle for you. Suppose someone got a bullet out of Enright's gun and killed Monica with it.
How could they do that without changing the ballistic markings?
You sound like Chapman. Now, there are many ways it could be done, but what I don't understand is how it could be done in front of a smart, professional officer like Sergeant Enright and with no one else in the room. See if you can figure that out while I'm away. Okay?
Okay. If I get it, I'll call you collect. You know, I'm gonna miss you.
Wasn't necessary to get a court order, Commissioner. I'm only too glad to cooperate.
Thank you.
Monica Fontaine's hatred of her husband was extreme and unreasonable. She blamed him for everything. Her failure as an actress, her breakdown, even her unsuccessful love affairs. Scotch, Commissioner?
Well, thank you.
Over the last couple of years, her hatred of him became an obsession.
Were you able to help her any?
Not really, because she didn't really want help. She came to me to avoid being locked up in a mental institution again. She feared that more than anything. She blamed it on her husband. Her fantasy was that someday he'd be punished as much as she felt she had been. Sorry, there's no eyes.
Well, that's all right. Was he the only one she wanted to see punished, or were there others?
Oh, yes. She wanted to hurt in some way any man she'd ever been in contact with. She'd been a patient with me for about 3 years. She blackmailed a producer into paying for the sessions. Seemed to enjoy having blackmailed him. Gave her a feeling of power.
Then there might well be someone in this file who wanted her dead.
Possibly. But why go to the trouble of killing her? She had less than 6 months to live anyway. Cancer. I see you didn't know that.
No. Doctor, if she were dying, would it be possible for her to plan her own death and also use it to destroy your ex-husband?
Yes. She was capable of that. In fact, it would fit into her neurotic pattern rather well.
right, cut. Print it. All right, let's move in for the close-ups.
Mr. Seaton, this is Stuart McMillan, police commissioner from San Francisco. Mr. McMillan, George Seaton.
How do you do, sir?
Hello, Commissioner.
I appreciate you taking the time, Mr. Seaton.
Oh, not at all. It's always a pleasure to have a little law and order on the set.
Yes, I was watching your shootout. What's the name of the film?
Showdown.
Well, it looks like the real thing. Except, of course, in my business, they don't usually get up again.
Yes, but directing a Western's a bit like playing God. You keep bringing them back to life. And nothing brings an actor back to life faster than a call for a close-up.
Well, how do you make it look like a man's been hit by a bullet?
Well, there are tiny explosive charges that are fitted under the actor's clothes. They explode outward, and this helps to prevent any body burns. And a small pouch of fake blood is released by the explosion. It looks fatal, but nobody gets hurt.
Well, I think I know of a case where someone did. Could I talk to your special effects man, Whitey Dobson, for a moment?
Well, of course. Whitey! Whitey, come here. Whitey, this is Commissioner McMillan from San Francisco. He'd like to ask you a few questions and find out how you do it. Now, if you'll excuse me, Commissioner, I've got some work to do over here.
Thank you, Mr. Seaton.
What can I do for you, Commissioner? You want to see a few tricks?
No, first I'd like to ask you a couple of questions, Whitey. Did you ever know Monica Fontaine?
Monica? Oh, yeah, I knew her.
Would you mind telling me a little bit about her?
Well, I haven't seen Monica in about 5 years now. When she first come out here, she couldn't get a job as an actress. I got a job as a stunt girl. I taught her the whole business. After she learned everything I could teach her, why, she dumped me.
What was she like?
Oh, she was mean. Violent. She almost brained me one time. Oh, if Monica hated you, look out. Me, I wasn't important enough for her to hate. She wasn't even blackmailing me.
Quiet, please. This is a take.
Excuse me, I have to shoot a man.
Roll 'em. Ready? Action.
All right, cut it, print it.
Whitey, would it be possible for a man to set the detonator off himself instead of you having to do it from here?
Why, sure. We rig self-detonators on actors all the time.
Well, how would you set it off?
Well, the most common way is to rig it so he just raises his hand, you know?
Yes, she raised her hand. In fact, that's why I thought that somebody else had just come into the room.
Then that's how she detonated it.
But, Mac, she was shot.
With a bullet from my gun.
Suppose that came later. Suppose the initial gunshot, the one in the locked room, was fake. Which is, of course, the only way it could have happened if the good sergeant had his gun in his holster at the time. Then, after faking the gunshot, Monica was examined by the only doctor in attendance. A doctor she brought with her for that very purpose.
But what about the wiring she would have had to wear to fake a gunshot? Nothing was found at the hospital.
Because nothing was on her by the time she got to the hospital. Dr. Thursby removed all the wiring in the ambulance and stashed it in his medical bag.
Then she had to be killed in the ambulance.
And there goes your theory, Mac. Poof. Because if we follow your theory to its logical conclusion, the only place that bullet could have been introduced was in the ambulance, right?
Right.
Now, you're telling me that she was shot in the ambulance with Enright's gun, which by then was already in your possession, which might explain why the ambulance attendants didn't hear the shot.
She wasn't killed by Enright's gun. She was killed by a bullet from Enright's gun, which was obtained by firing the gun into that pillow.
What kind of a weapon was used to fire the bullet into her body? The grooves on the bullet indicate beyond a doubt that they were fired only from Enright's gun.
I don't know how it was done yet, but I'm convinced the bullet from Enright's gun was fired in that ambulance.
All right. Even if I go along with that, which I don't, you still haven't explained how they got the gun. The sergeant himself says it was never out of his possession.
I'll prove it was out of his possession once we find Thursby.
We've looked everywhere. There just isn't any Dr. Thursby.
Right. And I doubt if his name is Thursby, and I doubt if he's even a doctor.
Well, then we'll never find him.
Now, what do we know about him?
Nothing.
Wrong. We know Monica had to have an accomplice for her to carry out her plan.
You mean somebody to pose as a doctor? Hey, maybe the man's an actor.
Well, I doubt that. Taking the gun out of a police sergeant's holster isn't that easy. Something that requires a very special talent.
Welcome, Commissioner. You can have your choice of tables at this hour.
I'm not here to eat, Alonzo. I need your help.
Anytime. You know that. I owe you one. In fact, I owe you two.
Who's the best finger man in this part of the country? Make it the whole country.
My Commissioner, I have no idea. I've been out of the business a long time. Now, if I could help you, I would. You know that.
Good. You gotta keep that in mind when you look at this picture.
I really wish I could help you. But you know how it is with pictures. They all look alike.
Yeah. Well, what about this picture? Make it any easier? It's one of your favorites, isn't it?
Benjamin Franklin. That's a sure good likeness.
What about the other fella?
His name is Thompson, but he's legit now. He's been out of the business as long as I have.
Where is he?
Vegas, probably. The last thing I heard was that he had an act there. Small time, but it keeps him alive.
Thank you, Alonzo. It just helped save a man's life.
Anything for a pal.
And Ben Franklin.
Is this yours? Yes, your wallet, sir. Yes, and your keys. Oh, keys. Say, is this your glass case here? That's right. Uh-huh. One more thing. Is this your handkerchief? What a sweet smelling one, huh? All right, sir, you can take your seat now, if you think it's still there. Did you forget these, sir? Huh? Here, hold your hands. You look like a slob. Let's take this off. Here, I'll help you with your suspenders. That's all right. Yeah, put it in your pants, for heaven's sake. You're in public. I'll help you with your suspenders. You put on the long ones, I'll put on the short ones. There we go. All right, reach right over there. That's fine. Okay. Yes. Put your jacket on. We'll have you back to your table in an hour and a half. All right. There we are. All right. Uh-oh. I know what you're thinking. You're thinking what they're thinking. You're thinking I took your wallet again. Is that right, sir? Is it still there?
Yes, it seems to be, yeah.
Everything seems to be in its proper place.
Same
Is that
place,
right,
yeah.
All right. Now, I haven't taken anything at all. Absolutely nothing this time.
No, I don't think so.
Oh, that's good. Are you absolutely sure, sir?
I'm positive.
All right. Well, then, on your way out, will you please try to avoid the maitre d'? You see, we have a rule here about wearing your undershorts at all times. Let's have a hand for our volunteer. It's been a real sport. All right, now, one more volunteer, if you don't mind. Well, here's an eager customer. I haven't even said what I want you to volunteer for.
I was wondering if you could remove this gun from its holster without my knowing about it.
Whoa, we're a little late, folks. They'll be dancing in the parking lot.
I knew you'd figure it out. I told her we'd never get away with it. But she threatened to expose me. That's why I did it. Monica knew all about my past. I told her she was crazy. Our plan was just nuts. I wanted no part of it. But she insisted. She said if I didn't help her, that she'd go to the Vegas authorities. She'd tell them everything she knew about me. I'd never work again.
How did you shoot her? The marks on the bullet are from Enright's gun.
I had the bullet from a zip gun. It has a smooth barrel. It doesn't leave any marks in the bullet.
You have to kill her.
I didn't kill her. I just held the gun. She pulled the trigger herself. That's how much she hated you.
Can you imagine hating someone so much that you'd plan your own murder just to frame them?
No. I can imagine loving someone so much that you'd die to save them. I guess that marriage just brings out the worst or the best in people.
Sometimes both at the same time. Did I ever tell you about my first husband?
First husband? I never knew about any husband.
Do you believe in marriage, Mildred?
I believe in anything, Commissioner, as long as it's with the right man.
Mildred, are you serious about having been married? You never mentioned it.
Everybody's entitled to a past, Mrs. McMillan.
Well, I hope my past is behind me.
Well, I hope mine's still ahead of me.
Corn and potatoes. That's my favorite combination.
I figured it'd be the right thing for a working man, especially since Mrs. McMillan mentioned that the commissioner mentioned that you mentioned it was your favorite combination. Believe me, I would never have thought of it on my own.
Well, I haven't had a banquet like this since, since...
Since the last time.
Yeah. And speaking of corn, I'd just like to say... Well, I'd like to say that friends who'd stick with a man through all of this...
Well, Sergeant,